Many thanks for staying with us, and we carry on with our conversation with my two guests, Honourable Farah Maalim and Honourable Musa Sirma, as they count down to the convening of the 13th Parliament this coming Thursday. These are some of the messages I'm getting from you, and we're going to put them up on the screen. This is what you are saying this evening. All right. When Nudin Kaga, you say the 13th Parliament must be vibrant and people-centric. The issue of turning members into voting machines without interrogating the issues at hand needs to stop. Parliament must rise above usual party leaders' panel beating and act accordingly. Thank you, Nudin, for that. No name, you say today's conversation is candid, mature and educative. Kudos to the veterans. We have missed their lovely debating skills in Parliament. Okay, thank you for that. Please share your names as we get your messages. What else do we have? Okay, I'm going to read a few more that I have here on my phone. Somebody here says, good evening. I appreciate being in Parliament. I appreciate my seniors, Honourable Sirma, Honourable Maalim, whom I truly envy. I am coming into the 13th Parliament as a first-time MP representing Sabatia constituency. I am 35 years. I promise we are going to make this parliament as vibrant like no other. It will be a powerhouse in the region. That's what he says. This is Honourable Clement Sioya, MP, Sabatia constituency. Honourable Clement will be watching. Thank you so much for that. Michael Enoch, this is a different one or the same one? This is the same one from Michael Enoch. I had another one here. Engineer Lazaro Kanyambok, you say the new parliament should control its own calendar. We need an inclusive parliamentary system of the government with speakers from opposition. I think parliamentarians should reach out to one another and build consensus. And I'll be also reading a few of your messages. Remember, 22422 is the SMS line. Hashtag is Newsnight. I'll pick a few more before we wrap up. But let me allow my guests to immediately respond to that, even as they tell me what they expect from a parliament where allowances have been scrapped. And a few allowances have been scrapped. Honourable Maalim and Sirma, I'm sure you followed up on that. And the CDF, and with the Supreme Court ruling that some opine, also touches on the NGCDF fund as well. Is it going to be a daunting task if parliamentarians no longer have access to CDF? I
think what the Supreme Court outlawed in the CDF is the 2013 Act. The 2015, which was amendment of the 2013 Act, is still operational. And CDF is still there. And under the 2015
Where does CDF fit in a parliamentarian's role of oversight, legislation and representation?
You see this...
because resource allocation now it's a different ballgame.
I do understand. I do understand very well. CDF, as constituted before, and the Act itself was you could safely say, was unconstitutional, because that separation of power between the executive and the members of parliament were allowed to become chairpersons or chair, and then they were basically executing projects. But right now, this the Act itself, the Reformed Act, has taken that into consideration and made it conform with the Constitution. Because there is going to be the fund manager, who is a civil servant, will be a signatory to the account.
So that's where you, as an MP, remove yourself.
The MP has got to be removed from that, yeah.
You know,
but the CDF had done so much work. The people in Kenya, in the four corners of this country, only started enjoying the fruits, the serious fruits of their own independence here after the CDF came into play, because they were getting money in the grassroots. And
you don't see how, having been out for 10 years, both of you, how CDF was misused by those you are competing against?
It was misused. It was a lot, but not all.
Not all money was misused. You know, it is just, let me tell you, CDF came in as a measure of helping the disadvantaged in the areas the government could not reach at that time. And devolution, I would say the first step of devolution was CDF.
CDF, yes.
Before we went into the devolved governments in the counties. CDF actually was able to save a lot of infrastructure development which had collapsed, especially for schools. You would get an emergency of a bridge at that time, although it has been removed now that you cannot do bridges. And
schools
and even bursaries. Government could not provide enough bursary. But currently, the poor of the poor can be able to go to school.
And come out.
But before, you would just be in the mercy of doing harambes, which people had really done harambes until they were tired. You tell us again right now, we go back to the old system of doing harambes for classrooms to be able to build schools. That one will never work.
Will this dominate your conversations tomorrow in your respective coalitions and alliances? Do you see it coming up as a major...
This piece of legislation, the 2015 legislation itself,
the NGCD
has still got one hurdle. It has to go through the Senate. You know, anything to do with resource allocation, the Senate has a certain role, particularly these ones. And then the other bit I want to look at, I don't know how much it's right now for education and for bursaries. Is 30 or 35%?
It's about between 25 and 35% of your allocation.
Of the allocation itself can go to bursary. When I was there myself last time, the outer limit was 15%. I want to now ask to have even an amendment to that piece of act, the legislation itself, to say any amount, you know, you can spend the whole amount on bursary. Because we've put the infrastructures there. The schools are there. The boardings are there.
Yes.
The infrastructure, you put it once and it stays forever.
But with CBC, you may need more schools
well, we might need on some of that, yeah. But even that, I think we could sort out that problem, in my opinion, in the first 1 or 2 years. And then you have the third year, the fourth year, the fifth year.
Yes.
Now, the place where members of parliament, and I'm talking about the unscrupulous members of parliament, I'm not talking about the bulk of them, majority of them, who are very good, and their own committees there who are corrupt, is through that. You can put up a class that probably costs only 700,000 shillings to put it up, but somebody is going to put in 2.5 million, 3 million shillings. You know what I mean? And you have members of parliament who have turned themselves into contractors.
Contractors.
And they themselves are the ones who are building these things and using their own relatives and the rest of them through proxy companies. But you cannot steal bursary. You get my point? You can't steal bursary because the school fees is just so much.
Yes.
You see what I mean? You can't pad it. You can't say that school fees for a child who's going to Moi University and doing medicine in there or doing BSc clinical medicine, I'm paying for him 2 million shillings a year. No. Everybody knows the fee structure.
For ghost students.
No, you can't pay.
I think it is possible.
Well, I don't know about the ghost students. That's a possibility. I know one thing somebody told me, which in my opinion was very, very, very outrageous, is that somehow they try to play around the system also. But the beauty of that is that you are going to educate young boys and girls from very poor families who end up becoming doctors, engineers, lawyers, and nurses, and basically becoming the cream of society. Because you can every member of parliament can take to school every year not less than 10 doctors and pay for them.
Yes.
Or 20 doctors, or 30 doctors. I used to do myself good numbers, scores and scores. And by the way, it makes all the difference, because then when you build that human capital, which can work anywhere in this world, then of course you're ending poverty left, right, and center. In every family has somebody successful. You just need to have one successful person in a family, and he's going to lift, or she's going to lift the rest of them. So I would want to see an amendment to the bill itself to allow for CDF, what do you call it, for bursary, to be any amount, 45%, 60%, 80%, 90%, you know what I mean? Then there has to be. I have a problem with the government, both in terms of holding accountable any of these funds that are devolved one way or the other, whether it is the county government's funds or whether it is the CDF funds. Because the members of parliament are in parliament, I don't know why. I haven't seen any members of parliament brought to book, taken to court, ending up in committee. You see what I mean? Because there are a good number of them who have misused some of those things. And there is need for some of those things to come out into the open. Come out seriously into the open.
Maybe you need to spur debate on the floor of the House. I think
it will definitely be spurred. And look at the county governments, for example. Look at the county governments. A county government gets 10 billion shillings.
And
they don't have water. They don't have water.
Yes.
You have a governor there who has, first of all, employed, I don't know how many people, who 90% of them don't work. You get my point? They're there earning salaries, and they don't work. Do county workers work?
I think that's
very few of them work. Let me be honest with you.
Some are
and then
patrons.
you don't have drugs in the hospitals. You don't have all those other things like gloves and you know, a lot of things. With that kind of money, somebody can put up, any person, every governor in this country can put up a level 5 hospital and a specialized, what they call, cancer hospital in his own county for as low as 500 million, 1 billion Kenya shillings. Now, when you get 10 billion per year, and you have got that 10 billion for 5 years, that's 50 billion Kenya shillings. And many of them have nothing to show for.
I think we'll have you gents back when we're talking the devolution. In the interest of time, I want to wrap this up with one question here. Luanga David wants to know from you, Honorable Sirma, your plans on a water project that was left incomplete in Igure Village, Makutano, and also rural electrification. And finally, your word to young lawmakers who are watching this program this evening. One has messaged, I know others are watching as well. What's your word to them? Let's get some final thoughts on this. Honorable Sirma, we start with you.
I think... First, I wanted to go back to where Farah left. Mm-hmm. First is...
And you'll be brief.
Let me be brief.
Okay.
Where is it only CDF where we are only told that there is theft of money? Because in the national government, in the county governments, and because the MPs are the easiest to really blame, but all the same, that one is a question for another day. The issue of the rural electrification is a key issue. I hope this government will prioritize the rural electrification to go on as a way of really bringing power to every village. So I want to say that if we get that, because it is an economic stimulus in every sector. Secondly is, when you talk about the Igure water project, it is... I started it, I left it where I left, and I found it the way it is. I'll go and finish it. I hope, because it's a county issue. But of course, I have possibly NGOs who can support me to do water issues, because it's not part of the CDF programs now.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And finally, your last word to the young lawmakers.
Yeah, the young lawmakers.
What's your message to them?
Focus on the purpose you are there. Focus and see to it that whatever you came to do, please make sure that you serve your people, both in parliament and on the ground.
Okay.
In your constituency.
Farah Maalim, your last word.
Yeah, to begin with, by the way, Sirma told you that they have not seen new tarmac projects in his own constituency for the last 20 years.
20 years.
I don't have a foot of tarmac in my entire constituency.
A new foot of tarmac?
No,
at all?
At all, I don't have a foot of tarmac. I only have unreliable electricity in 2 divisional headquarters, in 2, you know, Dadaab itself, yes, and Liboi. I don't have electricity anywhere else. You see what I mean? So this is a country where half of it is in the kind of doldrums it is in, and the other half is in relatively much better way. So whether it is going to be the new, what do you call, the rural electrification REA,
yes,
authority, which has changed to RERAC, is it?
Yeah, RERAC now.
RERAC now. Or whether it's going to be, whatever it's going to be, there must be an affirmative action right now, a deliberate, very deliberate decision on the part of the government and a policy on the part of the government. And I'm talking to the new president right now, who is going to be there for the next 5 years, and who definitely will want again to have his term extended, to make sure that the areas that were left out in this country, there is no tarmac road from Modogashe all the way to Mandera. The governor of Mandera and the governor of Wajir have created tarmac from the city, from their own money, although it was not their role. It was supposed to have been done by the Kenya Urban Kura Kenya Urban Roads Authority.
Yes.
In Mandera and in Wajir. But there's nothing connecting them in terms of tarmac. Feeder roads are so many. And all that expansive region you see there, we don't have tarmac. You get my point? We don't have tarmac. We don't have electricity in all those places. So there has to be a deliberate government policy right now to make sure that those areas that were left behind from the colonial time, are brought up to speed with the rest of the country.
Okay.
That's one thing. That's why we have all the insecurity and all the problems we have right now. Because, without infrastructure, build the infrastructure, you will eliminate poverty, abject poverty. No infrastructure, then people have nothing. There's nothing they can do. And then, of course, one thing feeds into the other, it becomes insecure, people become restless, and you never know what will happen.
And your final
for the young
I have one final.
For the young,
please.
Yes, let him finish then.
One final.
Wait first, Honorable Maalim, your final word?
For the young people who have just joined Parliament, I loved very much how this young man from Sabatia talked.
35 years old.
I was his age when I came in the first time myself into Parliament. And I had the same, drive and vitality and vigor.
Call it fire in the belly.
Fire in the belly. And I was never disappointed because I sponsored so many private members' motions there. Those days it was very difficult to have a private members' bills. The Kanu regime those days, it makes it impossible. The system was that the AG was there and they would not allow you to. And you couldn't use even the parliamentary staff for them to help you publish. That was a problem. You really had to have tons and tons of money for you to read. So now the situation is much better. We will assist him as senior politicians. And I really would want to see a very progressive class of young people who really want to make a change in this country. You see what I mean? Both at the national level and at their own domestic, their own municipal level and the constituency and the region and the rest of it. We have to do that. We have to do that.
Okay.
We did that. They called us the Young Turks, or they called us whatever they called us in the 9th Parliament. And we used to work together. We were not many. And we used to do a lot of work together. And basically, we did a good job. We did a good job.
Will we see the resurgence of the Young Turks is the question. You have 10 seconds.
The last.
Yes.
I would like to thank God that whatever I foresaw on the 15th of January, 2006, in installing and naming William Ruto as the future president of Kenya, has born or I have achieved what I thought should have been. And therefore, I want to say thank you, God, for having made me see what I foresaw in those 16 years ago.
Okay.
Thank you so much. He's the President of the Republic of Kenya.
Not just a lawmaker, but you've shared with us prophetic insights.
Yes.
I think we're going to leave it here. Thank you so much. We've had with us, that was Musa Sirma, MP, Eldama Ravine, coming back to that seat. He's also a former East Africa and Regional Cooperation Minister. Next to him has been Farah Maalim, MP, Dadaab now, and a former Deputy Speaker as well. I'm going to read one last message from a viewer this evening who says, Parliament should not be susceptible to executive faulty orders. With great minds like Farah Maalim and Honorable Sirma, we expect a complete overhaul of Parliament for the benefit of Kenyans. And I think that's a good place to leave it. We're going to be keenly following. We're looking forward to your opening speeches, statements, motions, and so forth in the National Assembly. And of course, we'll be keenly watching as you are sworn in on Thursday and as you thrash out that difficult duty of deciding who will be the Speaker, the Deputy Speaker as well. We're going to have to wrap it up. You had a final, if you're saying something has to be real brief.
Very, very brief. Dictators do not create themselves. Dictators are created by the masses. When you give a massive prophetic support, to dictators, to presidents and politicians up there, the tendency is that you are the one who is making them what they are. You remember very, very, very well, you're very young yourself, what people used to say with the first Kenyatta, and people used to say with Moi also, you know what I mean? And it's like, you're God ordained, you're God sent, you're the best, you are an angel, you are something.
You are challenging him to play.
I'm challenging him to, now that Ruto is a good friend of his and he has come in, he's a good friend of many, and still hold him accountable for his actions and inactions. Don't give him a blind support. If you're so prophetic that you saw him as a president in waiting.
No, I just want to say I have just one of the kingmakers.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
Yeah,
we're going to leave it here.
We need to hold them. Always,
okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Musa Sirma, Honorable Farah Maalim, we wish you all the best, and this is where we wrap it up. Thank you for having tuned in on behalf of the whole team that's made this broadcast possible this evening, and of course, my sign language interpreter, Wilson Mushora. We leave it here on this 6th day of September 2022, 2 days to the opening or the convening of the 13th Parliament, and a little under, 6 days or so to the swearing in of the President-elect into President William Ruto. We have to conclude this show for now, but we've given you a lot of information in regards to both Thursday and what will happen next Tuesday as well. For now, have a good night. Stay safe. We'll see you soon. My name is Wahiga Mwaura. Goodbye for now.